Today on Commander Replay, Arixmethes is back with all of his sea creature friends against Teysa, Rhonas, and Ramos. Find out who's in the splash zone and who isn't, next on Commander Replay. Hey guys, I want to take a quick second to thank my awesome Patreon supporters. We have a new Patreon supporter, Kieran Wakeland. Kieran, you are awesome. If you guys want to help support the channel and vote on which decks I play next, feel free to check out my Patreon at the link below. Just to let you guys know, I do have a Twitter page now, so feel free to check me out on Twitter at Commander Replay. Welcome back, everyone. Playing some Arixmethes Slumbering Isle. This is a commander that I wanted to do a revisit on. Last time around, we played it. We had success, except we didn't actually get to see very many of our sea creatures. This is a sea creature tribal deck, so, you know, that's what we want to be doing. But hopefully we'll run into more of them today. We kept an opening hand that looks pretty good. We got 3 lands, Farseek, Sylvan Library, some removal, and a Thing in the Ice. So I'm feeling that. That's a pretty good opener, I think. And a turn 1 Mox Amber for the Ramos opponent. So brings it to our turn 1. We draw into a forest. Let's drop a forest. Tap out and pass. So today I'm joined by 2 Patreon supporters. First up, we have Chaotix2075 piloting Teysa Karlov, a commander that we've tried on the channel. Essentially, people are calling it Death Harmonicon. If a creature dying causes a triggered ability of a permanent you control to trigger, that ability triggers an additional time. And then it says creature tokens you control have vigilance and lifelink. So it's going to be a lot of sacrificing stuff, a lot of token making creatures, things like that, and a lot of like probably Blood Artist and Zulaport Cutthroat kind of triggers going off. So Rhonas, I find Rhonas to be an interesting commander in that it's very cheap, but it does have high power and toughness, which is really good for things like Soul's Majesty, Rishkar's Expertise, stuff like that. Just a very good green, good stuff kind of commander. There are different ways to focus the deck. You can focus it around using a lot of cards with the fight mechanic because of the Death Touch and Indestructible, so you can, you know, use it as single target removal, which is something that green does not have a lot of. So, yeah, pretty interesting commander. We'll see what they have going on today. And then finally we have Ramos Dragon Engine, always really scary. 5-color deck, you never really know quite what they're up to. Probably a lot of multicolor spells though, because that's kind of what Ramos cares about. But yeah, we'll need to be careful with that. I mean, they can basically have every card in the format in their deck, so you know what I mean. So anyway, that brings it back to our turn. We draw into a Breaching Leviathan. Let us play the Farseek right here. And we'll get the Reading Pool tapped. And that'll allow us to get into our commander next turn, which I like. So my plan was to go commander first, and then get the Sylvan Library after it. Ooh, here comes a Thornbite Staff for the Rhonas. Yeah, that's a good one in that deck. Death Touch and Indestructible. If they get enough mana, they can just ping down all of our stuff. That's not great. So taking a look at what our commander actually does, I don't know that Arixmethes got necessarily the attention that it deserved out of Commander 18, but we'll talk about it for a little bit. So it's a 4-mana 12/12 that enters the battlefield with 5 slumber counters on it. As long as it has a slumber counter on it, it's a land. Whenever you cast a spell, you may remove a slumber counter from Arixmethes, and it has the ability to tap for a green and a blue mana. So really interesting, really flavorful, really powerful in that it's a 12/12. There are many good green cards that care about the power of your creatures, like Rishkar's Expertise, things like that. Arixmethes, sweet little commander. Now, removal is very bad against Arixmethes because you got to get the slumber counters off of it, so that may not be the greatest, but even just kind of having like a 4-mana ramp spell out of your command zone is not the worst thing that I've ever seen, so yeah. Oh, Arixmethes does enter tapped, by the way, because it would probably be a little bit too good if it came in untapped, but yep. So Arixmethes into play, has its 5 counters on it. It is a land and not a creature yet. So a Lifecrafter's Bestiary coming down for the Rhonas opponent. And that brings it back to our turn. We draw into a Rapid Hybridization. Sweet. Let us, what are we doing right here? We have 3, 4, 5, 6. We'll have 7 mana. Not enough for this Breaching Leviathan just yet. Also, not quite the right time for Breaching Leviathan, since it taps all non-blue creatures, and they don't untap for a turn. So I think we can wait on that. Let us, I think we're going to go Thing in the Ice. That triggers the Arixmethes. And Sylvan Library. Triggers the Arixmethes, and what does this guy say? Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, remove a counter from Thing on the Ice, so not doing that just yet. We'll lay down an island right here just to make sure we have double blue for both of our spells, and pass turn like that. Nope. And Thing in the Ice is going to get hit with a Path to Exile. I'd rather Thing gets hit with the Path to Exile than our commander, because our commander getting hit would be bad. Let's go for an island. There's less islands in the deck than there are forests. Here comes Alenda the Dusk Rose. That's a good one. That's got to be one of the better cards in the deck, because just as things die, that thing just starts piling up counters, and it gets double everything when Teysa's in play, so yeah, that's probably worth some removal. Rhonas coming into play, sure. Opponent's got the green mana open to scry if they want to. or draw a card rather, excuse me. The scry happens on their upkeep. The draw happens when you cast the spell, so they decide to draw a card. Yeah, sounds like a plan. Selvala Explorer Return coming into play for the Ramos. I think I'm just going to go ahead and rapid hybridize this Alenda right now. Alenda just does too much in that deck. That takes another counter off of Arixmethes. Opponent does get a 3/3 Frog Lizard, and they also get a 1/1 Vampire token. It's going to bring it back to our turn. We get a Sylvan Library trigger. Use the Sylvan Library. Sky Shroud Claim and Thran Dynamo. Yep, we are just going to go ahead and keep all of them. Let's get all this mana ramp going. See if we can't do this the smartest way possible. Use Arixmethes, get Thran Dynamo in. Takes a counter off the Arixmethes. One counter to go on Arixmethes. Go for Sky Shroud Claim right here. So pulling that last counter off Arixmethes, it is now a creature, and we will use the Garruk to untap it, so that we can start bashing into things. Let's get a Tropical Island and a Forest. Those come in untapped. Play the Garruk Wildspeaker. Oh, it's not a land anymore. We can't untap it. Bummer. Oh, the misplays. The misplays. Well, in that case, we're going to make a 1/1 green beast creature token. Who saw that pun? Yep, I forgot that it's no longer a land once it becomes a creature. Well, now opponents know what we're up to, so that's not amazing. However, we do have this Garruk Wildspeaker to keep them distracted. Planeswalkers tend to garner a lot of attention on the board. If opponent goes to equip the Thornbite Staff, then we will probably think about this reality shift. So it's going to cost them 4 to equip, and then it's 2 to use it. They only have 4 mana currently, so we should actually be okay for a turn. There's 5 mana. Here comes a Heart of Kiran. Interesting. Yeah, I guess Rhonas pretty good at crewing vehicles, right? Skullwinder. Here's one I haven't seen in a while. When enters the battlefield, return target card from your graveyard to your hand. Then choose an opponent. That player returns a card from their graveyard to their hand. Okay. So opponent uses their Selvala. They get 2 mana out of the deal. We draw into Lorthos the Tidemaker. Sweet. Oh man, I had a Lorthos deck a really long time ago. That's a commander that I should remake. Back then, I didn't nearly have the skill to make an effective Lorthos deck, but I think I could probably get it done now. That one's going on the to-do list. Ooh, an unexpected results for our opponent. Shuffle your library, then reveal the top card. If it's a non-land, you may cast it without paying its mana cost. If it's a land, put it on the battlefield and return it to its hand. Looks like they got a land out of it. And they're just going to go ahead and cast it again. Tells me that they're probably on the ramp into something big kind of plan, because that's why you would play that card, I think. More so than just a lot of value. I think you play it if you're trying to hit like really big creatures or something like that. Big spells in general. So, yeah, it's a little worrisome. Wouldn't mind drawing into one of our counter spells just to feel a little bit safer about things. We see a Soul Ring on the top, and use the Sylvan Library. 2 lands. Put 1 land back on top, and we'll keep 1 of the lands. You guys know me, I like to keep making all of my land drops, so pay 4 life, play the land, play the Soul Ring. Gonna continue to trigger Arixmethes, even though nothing really doing right there. Soul Ring into play. Since we don't have Trample, I think it makes the most sense to attack into the Ramos opponent, so we'll go ahead and do that. Arixmethes coming in! Did somebody order the Kraken? Opponent said no value Skullwinder, but they wanted the Death Toucher to block our 12/12. Yeah, that's enough to send me in another direction. I don't want any part of that Death Touch. So Arixmethes says, bah! Onto the face of Ramos, they go down to 22, 12 commander damage. Woo! That is a lot of commander damage. And after that, I think it's going to be Lorthos time. Sadly, we didn't catch any of those counter spells. Those would have been nice. And what are we doing right here? We could plus to try to get the Trample. Trample is cool. Blockers are also cool. Opponent can animate the Heart of Kiran. Probably better off just making the token then. Unless we could reality shift it, but I think we're going to need that for the Rhonas. So I'm not loving that. Yeah, in that case, let's just make a beast. And pass the turn. Phyrexian Arena is going to trigger for the Teysa opponent. Opponents will probably need some removal for this Lorthos. We have a lot of mana in play. You can very easily use the Lorthos, and that will cause some problems. That is, whenever it attacks, you may pay 8. If you do, tap up to 8 target permanents. Those permanents don't untap during their controller's next untap step. Pretty good. That's a Death Render. There's a sweet card. In Casual Extended, I used to play a Death Render deck, which was super fun. So opponent going to put the Death Render on the Vampire. Yep. Opponent going to swing into our Garruk. Yep, we're going to try to hold on to that if we can. So we will block with the Lorthos, and opponent can go Death Rendering. Let's find out what the biggest creature in their hand is. See, if we don't have a Planeswalker right there, then I just let that damage go through. But I'm going to try to protect the Garruk. When you have a Planeswalker, you should try to protect it. Opponent says thank you. Oh, into an Archon of Justice? Gross. We can exile it if we need to. Ooh. We're the ones with the scariest stuff in play right now, so that's not ideal. Definitely making ourselves a target. Could use some big draws off this Sylvan Library. Opponent gonna go equipping the Thornbite Staff to the Rhonas. Yeah, I don't like what that means, so we will be exiling the Rhonas. Opponent gonna tap the Selvala one more time. We draw into an island. Need to start drawing some gas. We've more or less run out of cards. We're down to this Breaching Leviathan. We will get to look at a couple extra on this Sylvan Library, but there is a lot of ramp in this deck, so high likelihood that we'll hit something not impactful, that's one of the issues when you play a ramp deck. I mean, you need to draw a lot of cards to get past all of your ramp. A Rishkar's Expertise would be glorious. Ooh, that's an Elspeth Suns Champion. That's a bad one. Oh, we're gonna get hit real bad by this. We're gonna get so bad. Also going to trigger the Archon of Justice. I don't like where this is going. Yep, destroy all creatures power 4 or greater. Oh man, we're getting wrecked right here. Ugh. So, Deathrender is going to trigger. Archon of Justice is going to trigger. Ooh, Archon goes after the Thran Dynamo. Well, I would have hit the Sylvan Library, personally. That's the one that's going to get us into more cards. Still a Deathrender trigger, though. Brings it Razaketh. What? Oh, man. Well, it's going to be Breaching Leviathan time, I think. Opponent going to use that unexpected results one more time. Hits into an Echo Mage. The middle level is copy target instant or sorcery spell, choose new targets. The last one is copy target instant or sorcery spell twice. Yeah, that seems pretty good. That's a Cyclonic Rift. That is something. Don't think we need it just yet since we do have this Breaching Leviathan. Well, maybe we do. Maybe we do. I thought Breaching Leviathan was the bounce one. It does not. It taps them all, which is different with this Razaketh in play. So, brings back to our turn. Sylvan Library is going to trigger. We draw... Ooh, Engulf the Shores. How many islands do we have? We have 4, 5, 6 islands. It's not bad. A 7th one in hand. Still too big for the Razaketh. Means we may need a Cyclonic Rift. We have a 7th one in hand. We could play Kodama's Reach. That would get us an 8th island. Man, I don't want to burn all of our life on the Sylvan Library, but I kind of feel like we need to. Razaketh can't really stay in play. That's not a thing that can happen. I guess we're paying 8 life again. Down to 20. Alright, we're going to send both into this Elspeth Suns Champion. Alright, so unfortunately, the Ramos opponent has timed out, so our attack's going to fizzle right here. And I really don't like what this means for the balance of the game. I feel very much like we're going to be into an arch-enemy situation, at least with the Ramos opponent there, that kind of keeps some of the focus off of us, even though a lot of it may be on us, so don't like what this means politically for the rest of this game. So I guess we drop down this island, play our commander. Ooh, 6 now. A lot of blue cards in hand. We only need to leave 1 green up, so we'll use a lot of the green. Arixmethes into play. Take a little check on our mana. We've got 4, 5, 6, 7. We could have 8, 9, 10. 10 total mana, which is exactly enough for Cyclonic Rift and Kodama's Reach. Seems pretty good. So let's play the Kodama's Reach. Get an island and a forest. Put the island into play. Forest into our hand. On tap 2 lands, it's going to be the Arixmethes and a forest. Opponent says, let the ramping commence. Yep. And then we overload this Cyclonic Rift. And I'm doing this to prevent Razaketh from being able to search, is the main reason why. Also helps deal with this Thornbite Staff and Death Touch problem. Opponent can do that at instant speed. Yep, forgot about that. Thought they needed mana to do it. I don't know why. Yeah, I don't know why that. I thought it took 1 black to do that. It does not. So they still get to search, but they will not get to search for anything else. And opponent's getting blown out mana-wise because Cyclonic Rift is the absolute worst when it comes to how you spend your mana in a game of Magic. Phyrexian Arena coming back to play, and maybe Deathrender. Ooh, Mortify in the Sylvan Library. Good play. Yep. It's going to be tough to win now. We need cards. We need something big off the top. If we don't get it, opponents can wear us down, especially with the Phyrexian Arena in play. Also, the Viscera Seer is an absolutely massive blocker when you talk about Arixmethes not having trample. Really looking for like a Rishkar's Expertise, although we need to get Arixmethes into creature form for that to be effective. Opponents are going to be able to wear us down right here. Soul Ring into play for the Rhonas. Heart of Kiran back to play. Lifecrafter is back to play. Next turn, opponent can go Deathrender on the Viscera Seer and get back the Razaketh. Seems pretty good. Skullwinder back to play. Still nothing in opponent's graveyard. The 0-value Skullwinder. Ooh, that's card draw spell. Equal to the highest converted mana cost among permanents you control. Which means we probably want to get this guy into play and then do that, because we need the card draw. That is huge. So play this forest. Cast the Breaching Leviathan. Should have attacked with the beasts first. Although we may be able to attack with the Arixmethes. That's a thing. So might be kind of a trade-off right there. Remove a counter from Arixmethes, it'll go down to 2 counters. Opponent said, "Yee, we're all in the splash zone." I went on the Jurassic Park ride with my girlfriend a while back at Universal Studios, and she's like, "We're not going to get wet on this, are we?" And the cart rolls up, and the front row is just soaked. And I'm like, "No, we're going to be fine. It's going to be fine." It wasn't too bad. We got a little wet, but, you know, it's California, so it's plenty dry and plenty warm to not be an issue. Oh, man. So, Breaching Leviathan into play, it's going to tap all non-blue creatures. Use the untap ability before we make Arixmethes not a land. Play the Rush of Knowledge. Hope we catch some low CMC cards in here. It's going to put us down to 1 counter on Arixmethes. We draw 9. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. All right, so lots of things to be doing right here. Rex Sage we're going to save either for the Death Render or Thornbite Staff. Engulf is cool. Ristic is cool. We already played a land, sadly, so can't get this Reliquary Tower into play. So I think we play Cura's Follower. That'll take the last counter off of Arixmethes. Yeah, Arixmethes back into creature form. Swing with Arixmethes, gonna go into the Rhonas opponent. I don't like all that Death Touch stuff they have going on. That's really bad news for us. So they take a hit for 12 commander damage, down to 28. And we'll pass a turn like that, sit on the Swan Song. Need to discard down to hand size, get rid of the command tower. We'll get rid of the... This Pilgrimage is pretty good. Well, I guess since we're already discarding down to hand size, get rid of the... Well, we have a Ristic Study still. Kind of painful, we'll get rid of the Alchemist Refuge. So opponent's turn, Phyrexian Arena trigger. There's a Cabal Coffers. They do have an Urborg down. That's going to get them some mana. Razaketh back to play. Swansong counters enchantments, instants, and sorceries. That is not either of those. That's a Death Render. Equip the Death Render. Yep. Onto the Viscera Seer. Oh, a Fumigate. Well, we can counter that one. So Swansong that. Opponent can have a bird. Opponent can equip the Death Render to the bird. Yep. Opponent can sack the bird. Death Render is going to trigger. Razaketh? Razaketh is back with a Death Render. It's a 10-10 Flying Trample. That thing is huge. I mean, I know we're playing a 12-12, but 10-10 Flying Trample is so hard to block. Razaketh is a card that, like, even when I'm playing Angel Tribal or something like that, that's, you know, full of big flyers, Razaketh is just bigger than most of them. Avacyn and Gisela, I think, are the only two that trade super favorably with Razaketh, so yeesh. Beside the fact that if you're playing Razaketh, you're tutoring for probably everything that you need to, so yeah. Strong magic card. We can make this Shipbreaker Kraken monstrous, and we can tap up to 4 creatures, and they won't untap for a turn. That'll be useful. Stonehoof Chieftain coming into play. That's a good magic card. There's one you don't see much of. Whenever attacks creatures you control gain trample and indestructible. Whew. When that thing attacks, like, there just aren't profitable blocks, it's going to hurt a lot. Sword of the Animist into play for the Rhonas. Things not looking great right here. Do have Engulf the Shores. Could be useful. We have 8 islands in play. We could get a 9th to bounce our Breaching Leviathan if we needed to. Maybe that's what we do, actually. Okay, so play the Myriad Landscape. Play the Nissa's Pilgrimage. Get 2 forests. Actually, I think it's 3 forests. 3 forests. Sweet. Put 1 into play. Untap 2 lands. Going to be the Myriad Landscape and a forest. Gotta be careful that there's islands left in the deck. There aren't... there's quite a few islands, I think, though. I think we should be alright. Sacrifice Myriad Landscape. Get an island. Get 2 islands. That's the last 2 islands. Play Engulf the Shores. Actually, let's do this. Let's sequence everything properly. So tap the Soul Ring, untap the Soul Ring, tap the Soul Ring again, play Engulf the Shores. So this will bounce all creatures with toughness less than, was that 9? 8 or 9? Actually, I'm thinking about it might be 10 or 11. Here's 4, that's 4, 10. Opponents said they appreciate just how much ramp Arixmethes and card draw is showing off. So all creatures except the Arixmethes getting bounced. We have some floating mana. Let's get Reclamation Sage and blow up the Death Render. Thing seems to be causing problems. Let's get the Follower back into play and the Ristic Study into play. Swing into the Rhonas opponent. Opponent says, no, not my sword. Yep, down the Death Render goes. Jazz Fox commenced the small violin. Down they go. 24 commander damage. We pass the turn. Gonna need some removal. Razaketh back to play. Use the Ristic Study. Draw a card. We get a land. Not a ton of lands left to fetch up in the deck. Probably still a few forests, but we're definitely out of islands. Viscera Seer back to play. Yep. We will draw again. Ancient Tomb. Opponent's gonna sack the Viscera Seer into the Razaketh. They could have a 4-mana board wipe, and that would get us. 3-mana Toxic Deluge would also do it, except Toxic Deluge would be 12 life. That's a lot of life to be sinking into that thing. Opponent's gonna Anguished Unmaking on our commander. Yep, that seems like a fine play. That's even better because now Razaketh's still in play. We got to deal with that. We draw into a Soul's Majesty. That can get us into a million more cards. What happened to that Reliquary Tower? It's still in our hand. Let's get that into play. Commander is going to cost quite a bit. So I think it's going to be Soul Ring, untap the Soul Ring, use the Soul Ring again. Actually, we need to count up the mana. So we have 4 right there. That thing's going to be 8 to get into play. 18, 19, 20, 21 mana. Breaching Leviathan cost 9. Plus 5 from the Soul's Majesty is 14. Plus 8 for the Arixmethes is 22. Okay, so we'll need to use Arixmethes for mana to make all this work. Oh, actually, yeah, we have a little bit more. We could still use the Garrick untap ability to generate some additional mana. So let's go ahead and do that. Arixmethes into play. Untap some lands. Untap the Arixmethes. Play the Breaching Leviathan. Remove a counter from Arixmethes. It's going to tap down all non-blue creatures. Going to play the Soul's Majesty. Remove another counter. We draw many things. None of which are a counterspell, though. We draw into a Garrick Primal Hunter, so we can do some more card drawing if it gets to that point, but we don't have any counterspells. That's disappointing. So I guess we lay down Ula's Temple. Although, we had a Rhystic Study. There's a chance we could have drawn into a counterspell with the Rhystic Study, but, yeah, I guess we're just going to pass like that. 44 cards left in our deck, so we've seen a good chunk of the deck. Really getting into the big card draw. Breaching Leviathan's actually not working properly. It says creatures don't untap during their controller's next untap step, and they have been untapping, so that's a little bit annoying. So a Signet coming into play. Opponent just needs a single creature, and then they can go find whatever they need with Razaketh, and even though we just drew a lot of cards, it'll still be a battle if they keep tutoring up removal every turn. There's an Anointed Procession, yeah. So yeah, that's a good one. There's a Cemetery Reaper. That's another good one. We get to draw with Rhystic Study. That's a Blood Artist. Opponent is getting set up. Draw again. 3 visits. And there's Teysa. Draw again with the Rhystic Study. Another land. Okay, so opponent... okay, they do have a sack outlet in Razaketh. Don't have a token producer. Razaketh into the Garrick. Yep, Garrick's about to go down. We can Prime Speaker Zagana for, like, the rest of our deck. Quest for Ula's Temple is going to trigger. It's probably a bit late in the game for this one, but, you know, it's a mana drain. Mana Drain is useful. Here's one of them counterspells we've been looking for. We could Strip Mine the Cabal Coffers. Seems like a pretty good idea. How do we close this game out? Opponent's at 32. We don't have, like, tons and tons of damage available. Well, I guess if Arixmethes becomes a creature, we will. Blood Artist is kind of an issue. Scourge of Fleet says, return each creature your opponents control with toughness X or less, where X is the number of islands you control. So that'll bounce all of their stuff. That seems like a pretty good start. Do we have a way to give anything a haste? That's my question, I guess. Play Strip Mine, shoot the Cabal Coffers, play Scourge of Fleets, bounce all of our opponent's stuff. That's big play right there. Arixmethes has 1 counter on it. Go for the 3 visits right here. Remove that last counter. Get a Forest. See what opponent's saying. Oh, overtapped. Trigger that Arixmethes 1 more time. Play the Garrick Primal Hunter. Draw 12 cards. We have most of our deck now. Now we're going to combat. Now, we have the Mana Drain. We should have more counter spells if we need to. There's a Pact of Negation, yeah. Opponent goes down to 9. 12 commander damage. We'll pass like that. So here comes Teysa. Teysa's fine. Here comes a Blood Artist. Midnight Reaper. Whenever another non-token creature you control dies, Midnight Reaper will deal 1 damage to you and you draw a card. Interesting. I'm actually not too worried about those. None of those are Razaketh, and none of them are a board wipe. Quest for the Ula's Temple is going to trigger. No counters on Ula's Temple. We have a... Where'd it go? Whelming Wave should do it, or we could go for Slinvoda. Slinvoda's fun. Return all creatures that, except for Merfolk, Krakens, Leviathans, and Octopuses. That's Kraken, that's a Leviathan. Let's go for Slinvoda just for the flavor reasons. Don't get to see a lot of Slinvoda. I was actually working on a Slinvoda deck, very similar to this one. But before I had time to really hone it in, Arixmethes was released, and so Slinvoda's kind of gone by the wayside, as Arixmethes just having access to 2 colors much better than 1. Go to combat, send in our 2 big boys, and that should do it. Opponent wants that to be the video name. Maybe it will be. Maybe it will be. So this deck, it actually turned out to be stronger than I thought. Like, it turned out to be faster than I thought, and a bit more resilient. The tons and tons of card draw helps, the tons and tons of mana ramp helps. So early on in the game, we had the Sylvan Library, and somewhere along the way, we played that Cyclonic Rift. And both of those are just like, I mean, they're pretty busted Magic cards in Commander. So, I mean, it almost doesn't matter what we do between the lines at that point because we're drawing a lot of cards and we're bouncing all of our opponent's stuff. Having like any creatures at all should do quite a bit. Those kind of enabled our deck on a very real level. Without those, we would have been in trouble because we were kind of playing the arch enemy game a little bit. And, you know, especially once Ramos left, then all eyes were on what we're doing. And that would be one knock against this deck, I guess, is that you're slamming such big creatures that it's going to draw focus. So if there is a lot of removal, that can be a problem. If that's the case, you may want things like Asceticism, Lightning Greaves, ways to protect your creatures. But other than that, I think it's a super fun commander. It's a bit stronger than I thought. I told opponents, like, this is probably the upper end of a mid-power deck, and it may be just a touch better than that. And if I tuned it up a little bit more, you know, it's going to be pretty strong. It may not be as strong as something like Krufix, but I think because of all the bounce effects and things like that, this deck is going to put up a fight against some pretty strong decks. The big thing is going to be managing your early game, making sure someone doesn't get off to a really good start. But if you can do that, you could probably get away with facing some high-power decks with pretty good success, I think. Once you get into the late game, this deck has some massive late game stuff, and the fact that a lot of those late game things bounce and tap and just cause problems for your opponent, yeah, that's a fine way to stop what they're doing. Big creatures that make your opponents not able to do stuff, those can win games. So yeah, it's a fun little deck. It's a bit stronger than I thought. We did need a fair amount of removal in that game and still able to eke it out. The mana ramp really helped. This is a ramp deck through and through. So yeah, super sweet commander. Glad we got to do the revisit. Glad we finally got to see some sea creatures because last time we did not. But anyway, hope you guys enjoyed this video. As always, feel free to comment, like, or subscribe. Thank you for watching.